Hi everyone and welcome. You're watching Eagle News. I am Rose Papa Angeles in Washington. It's Saturday, January 29, 2022 here in the nation's capital. This week's stories: free COVID test kits ready and on their way to American homes. Now that you have those at-home COVID test kits, when and how do you use them? Dr. David Oria will show us how. In Ontario, public health measures are easing. Survey says 30% of Americans will work from home even after the pandemic. In New York, crowds of friends, fellow officers, and family members mourn the loss of police killed in Harlem shooting. On this week's Correspondent at Large, WHO chief says 70% of the world's population must be vaccinated to end the COVID global health emergency. Expired vaccines are being disposed of in the U.S. while hospitals worldwide struggle with COVID patients. These stories and more from Thomas Likeness. Several stories on Oceania at a glance, Australians celebrating the nation's milestones, and school holiday program in Port Moresby underscores responsibility and the love of the city. On Learning Curve, NASA honors the fallen during a day of remembrance. On Embassy Files, the Czech Republic opens Lidí's 2022 International Children's Art Competition. On Color My World, the 27th Annual LA Art Show highlights environmentalism, movement, and conversation. Plus, on Behind the Counter, chicken wings with creamy garlic sauce. Our coverage begins now. Free COVID test kits are en route to millions of American homes after the Biden administration purchased $1 billion at-home rapid test kits to give at no cost to U.S. residents. Myla Simbulan reports.
The demand for test kits soared as the holidays neared and people grew eager to test themselves and their families before traveling, and as the Omicron variant spread rapidly in just a few weeks to become the dominant strain in the United States. U.S. President Joe Biden said the government will double its purchase of COVID-19 tests with an extra 500 million kits, bringing the total to 1 billion. Take a look.
And in addition to the 500 million, 500 million tests that are in the process of being acquired to ship to you homes for free, today I'm directing my team to procure an additional 500 million, additional 500 million more tests to distribute for free. That made 1 billion tests in total to meet future demand.
The new federal website, covidtest.gov, to request free test kits, launched last week, one day earlier than expected, with the first shipments expected to go out to Americans by the end of the month. The website states the tests will be completely free. There are no shipping costs, and you don't need to enter a credit card number. The White House says tests will typically ship within 7 to 12 days of ordering through the U.S. Postal Service. USPS reports shipping times of 1 to 3 days for its first-class package service in the continental United States. Shipments to Alaska, Hawaii, Army Post Office, Fleet Post Office, and Diplomatic Post Office addresses will be sent through priority mail. Shipments from covidtest.gov will initially be limited to 4 rapid tests per residential address, no matter the number of occupants. But as of January 15, health insurance providers are required to cover the cost of 8 at-home COVID tests per month per individual. That means a family of 5 can get 40 free tests per month. Customers can be reimbursed for COVID kits up to $12 per test, or receive free tests at no cost from participating in network pharmacies. People who can't access the website covidtest.gov or who have trouble ordering online can call a hotline, 1-800-232-0233. Again, 1-800-232-0233 to order their free test. This is Myla Simbulan, Eagle News, Swarthmore, Pennsylvania.
Thanks, Myla. Now that most American families are awaiting their free at-home rapid COVID test kits, here's a quick demonstration on when and how to effectively use them. Dr. David Oria joins us today. Take a look.
The distribution of free COVID kits here in the DC, Maryland, and Virginia areas continue. There's also the option of ordering them online now at covidtest.gov and having them delivered straight to your home. So what do you do if you've been experiencing symptoms or just don't feel well? Use the kit that you received. Not sure how to use it? Let's watch. First, wash your hands thoroughly. Read all the directions prior to doing the test. Take all of the items out of the box and lay them out. Remove the test card and lay it flat. Gently insert the absorbent tip into one nostril. Firmly rub the swab in a circular motion along the walls of the nostril 5 times for about 15 seconds. Repeat the same process for the other nostril. Remove the foil from the extraction buffer tube. Immediately place the swab into the extraction buffer tube and swirl for 30 seconds. Rotate the swab 5 times while squeezing the base of the tube. Remove the swab while squeezing the base of the tube to extract as much of the liquid as possible. Then dispose of the swab in the trash. Attach the dropper tip firmly to the tube. Mix it thoroughly by swirling. Gently squeeze the tube and dispense 4 drops of the solution into the sample well. Then dispose of the tube in the trash. Results only take 15 minutes. If your test turns out positive, please isolate right away. If your test is negative, continue wearing your mask and stay safe out there. Dr. David Oria, Eagle News, Washington.
Thanks, Dr. David. Aside from free COVID test kits, the federal government is distributing 400 million free and 95 masks through community health centers and local pharmacies. Meanwhile, after sliding back to stricter health and safety measures, the Canadian province of Ontario has begun easing some restrictions. Students now have the option to return to in-person classes. Also, service establishments may increase capacity limits. Joshua Santillana has the details.
The Ontario government announced on Thursday last week that the province will begin easing public health restrictions by January 31st. These restrictions were placed in response to the enormous rise in COVID cases due to the Omicron variant. Schools are once again open to in-person classes, and by January 31st, restaurants, cinemas, malls, event spaces, and the like will return to 50% capacity. During the conference on Thursday, Dr. Kiernan Moore, Chief Medical Officer of Health for the province, explains the key factors observed in order to make decisions in lifting public health restrictions.
It's not one number that we're monitoring. It is a series of data points. As the Premier announced, the percentage of tests that are positive is on the decline at 15%, so that is one indicator we're following very closely. As well, the ability to care for Ontarians in the intensive care unit setting, as well as in the hospital. We're at 100% capacity for the medical and surgical beds, but we are providing care for COVID patients in the right place at the right time. The other metric is the number of outbreaks in long-term care facilities in particular, because patients have to move eventually from the acute care sector back into long-term care, or from long-term care back into the acute care sector. So those are some of the metrics that we're following.
The Registered Nurses Association of Ontario, or RNAO, released a statement urging the government to reverse course and continue with the stricter public health measures in order to alleviate the pressure on Ontario's collapsing healthcare system. We must improve the conditions so the thousands of Ontarians waiting for other hospital services, including postponed heart and cancer surgeries, start receiving them. This will not happen without addressing the nursing human resources crisis. As of January 24th, Ontario has about 67.7 thousand active cases, the highest number of active cases in the country. Just within the past 2 weeks, 602 people in the province have died from COVID. In Ontario, Joshua Santillana, Eagle News. We live in interesting times.
Thanks, Joshua. Have you thought of what the work setup will be for millions of Americans once the COVID health emergency dies down? Emerson Simon shares with us findings of a recent survey about what employees and employers prefer when it comes to the post-pandemic work scenario. Take a look.
Working from home, a majority of employees love it. Managers are not as enthused, but either way, working from home is going to be a part of our lives as the pandemic comes to an end. A survey of more than 78,000 workers done by WFH Research suggests that working from home will account for 28% working days after the pandemic. It also says a significant number of businesses will use a hybrid model, which will require workers to come into the office several days a week. Despite the fact that 6 out of 10 workers who responded to the survey say not having to go into the office exceeded their expectations, there are drawbacks. There is the isolation factor. People don't develop friendships with coworkers. Collaboration with others may not be as easy. Younger workers want more face time with their managers. They indicate the isolation of being stuck at home reduces their visibility. They have become the forgotten worker bees, and they say that can negatively affect them when it comes time for promotions. There's no doubt that as the pandemic eases, more and more workers are going to be summoned to the office. The survey indicated managers would like to reduce time in the home office to as little as 1 day a week. Workers, on the other hand, would like to spend at least 2 days a week working from home. But for some, the end of working from home is so upsetting that they will quit their jobs immediately. 7% say returning to the office is not an option for them. Whatever happens, working from home is not going to die out, and companies will continue to develop more effective ways of managing workers both in the office and home. This is one of many challenges of trying to do business in a tight labor market with an unpredictable economy. Emerson Simon, Eagle News, Los Angeles.
Thanks, Emerson. In New York, the city mourns the death of police officer Jetson Rivera and his partner police officer Wilbert Mora. Meanwhile, City Mayor Eric Adams says gun violence is a public health crisis that needs immediate attention. Janesh Agagas reports.
In New York City, huge crowds of friends, family members, and fellow officers mourn the loss of the police officer shot in a fatal shooting in Harlem. A public viewing was held at St. Patrick's Cathedral where loved ones said their final goodbyes to 22-year-old NYPD officer Jetson Rivera, who was shot in the line of duty on Friday, January 21st. The solemn event comes just a day after the rookie's partner, 27-year-old police officer Wilbert Mora, died from his injuries sustained during the ambush. Mora underwent 2 surgeries and had been clinging to his life days after being shot in the head. In an act of heroism, Mora's organs were donated to others in hopes of saving lives. This marks the first time 2 officers were killed together in the line of duty since 2014. The NYPD officers had responded to a domestic call by a mother who said she was fighting with her son in their home in Harlem. After officers arrived, shots were fired by the suspect using a stolen handgun. The mother mentioned she wasn't aware her son had weapons in the home, after officials also found an assault weapon under the son's bed. The accused gunman, whose social media posts included anti-police and anti-government rhetoric, died of his wounds the following Monday after being shot by a 3rd officer. New York City Mayor Eric Adams spoke out against gun violence, addressing the issue as a public health crisis.
In the wake of COVID, major cities and localities nationwide have seen alarming rises in shootings, gun incidents, and violence. Gun violence is a public health crisis, and it is one that must be addressed at every level of government. It is time for our federal leaders to rise to the occasion and pass common sense legislation that is supported by an overwhelming majority of Americans.
In the coming days, President Biden will head to New York City to meet with Mayor Adams on combating gun crime and illegal guns. Only a month into the new year, and already 5 NYPD officers have been shot, with 3 others shot in separate incidents and have survived. The city is grappling with the aftermath as funeral ceremonies come underway for the slain police officers. Mora, a 4-year NYPD veteran, will be honored next week. Janesh Agagas, Eagle News, New York City.
Thanks, Janesh. The World Health Organization chief says we need to vaccinate 70% of the world's population if we want a COVID global health emergency to end. This story and more from Thomas I. Likeness, our correspondent at large.
Is that light I see? Is that light at the end of this long tunnel we've been stuck in for the past 2 years? Can the end be near for the COVID-19 virus and its mutant cousins? Let's put the question to the head of the World Health Organization. His name, Dr. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus.
If countries use all of these strategies and tools in a comprehensive way, we can end the acute phase of the pandemic this year. We can end COVID-19 as a global health emergency, and we can do it this year.
But it comes with a caveat.
But there is no path out unless we achieve our shared target of vaccinating 70% of the population of every country by the middle of this year.
It's been a rough couple of months since Omicron came onto the world stage. Doctor, just how bad has it been?
Since Omicron was first identified just 9 weeks ago, more than 80 million cases have been reported to WHO. More than were reported in the whole of 2020.
And Dr. Tedros, how about the last couple of weeks? What have you seen?
On average, last week, 100 cases were reported every 3 seconds. And somebody lost their life to COVID-19 every 12 seconds.
So, if we're to reach that light, reach the end of the tunnel, Tedros says we have to get 70% of the population of every country, 70% vaccinated by the middle of the year. That's just 5 months away. The United States, right now sitting at 63%, less than 2 out of 3 people immunized, and this in a country where the shots are readily available, free of charge. In fact, some states are disposing of vaccine because it's expired. People are rejecting it. Worldwide, hospitals have been pushed to the limit trying to care for people infected with COVID. Not enough beds, not enough staff. In less developed countries, add to that not enough equipment, medications, and vaccines. In more developed countries, not enough common sense by many to get immunized. The anti-vaxxers talk about freedom, but where is the freedom when you can't get treatment for non-COVID ailments because healthcare resources are so focused on COVID patients, many of them unvaccinated? There are stories from all over the world of people not being able to get treatment because of a lack of resources. Let me tell you one. It happened last week in Red Deer, Alberta, a city about an hour and a half south from where I live. A patient went to the city's hospital emergency room last weekend. Staff triaged that patient, who was then told to wait for further care. But further care never came, even though the emergency room was fully staffed. You see, just too many people waiting for treatment. Hours later, the patient died. The medical examiner is looking into this. And, this case is not unique to Canada. It's happening everywhere, all over the world. And that's what happens when hospitals are overwhelmed treating illnesses that in many cases could be prevented. And it can happen to anyone, including the unvaxxed. People get heart attacks and need immediate care. Victims of serious accidents need immediate care. But when those resources are diverted elsewhere, that immediate care is put on hold. Perhaps these healthcare freedom fighters could ponder on this instead of whining about being required to have vaccine passports to attend public venues and access services. And here's a story that just leaves you shaking your head. In Boston, Massachusetts, a hospital is refusing to do a heart transplant because the patient is refusing the COVID-19 vaccine. The 31-year-old man says he doesn't believe in the vaccine. The hospital, well, it says, no vaccine, no transplant. Those are the rules at Brigham and Women's Hospital in Boston, where the man was a patient. Those are the rules at most hospitals, actually. Immunization is part of the requirements transplant patients must meet. But is that fair? Well-known medical ethicist Dr. Arthur Kaplan thinks it is. Kaplan says organs are scarce and shouldn't be given to someone who has a poor chance of living, and not being immunized reduces your chance of survival. That's because after the transplant, you'll be taking immunosuppressant drugs to reduce the chances of rejecting the transplanted organ. When I return in 7 days, I hope to have better news about the pandemic and other stories. But for now, Thomas I. Likeness, Correspondent at Large, Eagle News.
Thanks, Thomas. January 26 was Australia Day, and today Morgan Goodfellow tells us how the country celebrates this national holiday. Here's this week's Oceania at a glance.
Australia Day is observed January 26th, celebrating the things we love about the country: the land, sense of fair go, lifestyle, democracy, the freedoms we enjoy, but most importantly, the people. This public holiday is about recognising and highlighting the heartfelt efforts every Australian contributes to the nation. From the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who have been here for more than 65,000 years, to those who have lived here for generations, and those who have come from every corner of the globe now calling Australia home. 3 in 4 Australians say that Australia Day is more than just another day off work. This national celebration has become iconic for Australians as it has proven to strengthen nationalism, diversity and unity. Despite the pandemic, Australia Day events and activities will proceed with COVID-safe protocols being implemented. The number of people attending events are limited to facilitate social distancing. Contact tracing will be facilitated and sanitising stations will be placed throughout gatherings. The use of face masks is strongly encouraged.
So today we're really fortunate we've had Free Brigade from Townsville. We've been able to celebrate in accordance with the COVID restrictions. So we've had the parade about halved so we can keep those in place and in force. We've had a great show out today. We had a great 21 gun salute from the 4th Regiment and we had the parade from 1 RAR. So all in all, great day. Got to get excellent speeches by the Premier and the Governor and the rest, so we're really happy with how it went out.
Every year, over a half of Australia's population take part in Australia Day events organised by state governments, local councils, community groups and social gatherings organised with family and friends. Morgan Goodfellow, Oceania at a glance, Eagle News.
Thanks, Morgan. Meanwhile, in Papua New Guinea, getting students engaged in caring for their cities while learning the value of responsibility is the aim of a project called School Holiday Program. Eco Hortaleza Kenyola tells us more.
The first ever school holiday program has been launched at the Sir Hubert Murray Stadium. It is designed to help and engage secondary students in loving, respecting, and caring of the city. The program will create part-time jobs for students during the holidays for them to eke out allowances for school essentials and fees. It aims to also help parents send children to school.
It's the initiative of our Governor, Honorable Paul Sparkop. He decided to take on the secondary school students to participate in this cleaning and beautification program. The main aim of this program is to engage students to take ownership of the city. In a way, Governor is trying to assist parents who have become victims of this COVID-19. Several of the parents have lost their jobs and their little businesses and things like this have been disturbed.
Governor Powes Parkup of the National Capital District speaks before hundreds of secondary students from East, West, and South Moresby. He introduces the program urging students to take ownership of the city by earning an income through planting, cleaning, and beautifying Port Moresby.
You have to think about the future, where you belong, and what's most important. Yes, our feeling, promise of origin is important, but most of our life we are going to live it here in Portland. If you look after Portland, please take care of it, look after it, beautify it, clean it, make it safe. It will give you a good quality of life and standard of living. We are here to start this journey, a generation that will help us as a political leadership and city management to keep on, transforming and lifting our city. For you all, the next generation, to take ownership.
The governor asks students to join Port Moresby in erasing negative impressions about the city.
But the history of our city is a bad history. It used to be a city full of violence, full of crime, all the bad things. It's not a city where we should have been proud of. It promotes bad values, bad culture that not only destroy our city, give it a bad name and reputation, but it was exported to all the provinces of our country. I want to start a new journey for our city with you all, the next generation who are going to continue this journey that we have started.
Governor Parkup also shares how he wishes school year 2022 to be.
Our priority for this year has always been like last year, is mainly to get in the area of education, get the powers for education in the city decentralized to the city. And once we decentralize, then we will put a good governance system in place to manage all the secondary school, the technical schools, all the primary early childhood. Because early childhood is where we really start the children on a strong foundation that will be guiding them for the rest of their life. And in PNG, we've got the equation wrong. We focus on middle to higher education, but we have neglected or not invested equally in early childhood development. So once we take over education, we will spend a lot of resources on early childhood. Now we cannot impact much because the function and management of schools in the city still remain a national function.
Help us with the journey and continue the journey in our lifetime and into your lifetime. Thank you.
Programs that promote respect and love of the city are just one of the many ways that help students of Port Moresby thrive. Echo Hortalenza Quinola, Oceania at a Glance, Eagle News.
Thanks, Echo. The National Aeronautics and Space Administration, or NASA, remembers fallen colleagues who shared their endeavor in advancing exploration and discovery for the good of all people. Here's Bureau Chief Philip Toledo for Learning Curve.
Space exploration may look easy in the movies, but the reality is that it's highly complex and dangerous. Those looking to go into space to further the cause of exploration and discovery put their lives on the line, and there have been some tragedies. On January 27th, NASA, or the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, honors those who lost their lives through this pursuit. This year's Day of Remembrance fell on the 55th anniversary of the Apollo 1 tragedy, where 3 astronaut pioneers lost their lives. Officials held an observance at Arlington National Cemetery in Virginia, including a traditional wreath laying at the tomb of the unknown soldier. Observances for the crews of Apollo 1 and Space Shuttles Challenger and Columbia followed. Due to the ongoing pandemic, many of the events were closed to the public and streamed online. NASA administrators also hosted a panel to discuss various safety topics and lessons learned from the tragedies, as each one triggered massive changes and improvements in the safety protocols, leading to the agency's core focus on safety today. NASA Administrator Bill Nelson was quoted saying, "NASA's Day of Remembrance is an opportunity to honor members of the NASA family who lost their lives in our shared endeavor to advance exploration and discovery for the good of all humanity. Every day we have the opportunity to further uplift the legacies of those who gave their lives in pursuit of discovery by taking the next giant leap, meeting every challenge head-on as they did. In doing so, we must also never forget the lessons learned from each tragedy and embrace our core value of safety." Philip Toledo, Learning Curve, Eagle News.
Thanks, Philip. Back here in Washington, the Embassy of the Czech Republic invites kids to participate in this year's LIDI's 2022 International Children's Art Competition. Bureau Chief Arlene Ocampo for Embassy Files.
Calling all teachers and children, the Embassy of the Czech Republic invites you to be part of the 50th International Children's Exhibition of Fine Arts LIDICE 2022. Established in 1967, the project honors child victims from the Czech village of Lidice, annihilated by German Nazis in 1942, as well as all other children who have died in wars. One of the largest children's art competitions in the world, it is open to all organizations and schools with children from 4 to 16 years of age. The artworks will be awarded Rose of Lidice medals and honorable mentions and will be displayed at the Lidice Gallery. Every year, a theme is chosen by the Lidice Memorial in collaboration with the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, or UNESCO. This year, the theme is Museum, highlighting the world's diversity and shared history in museums. Artworks can be created using different media such as film, animation, drawing, painting, and photography. Inspirations can be derived from a variety of things: museum exhibits such as famous artworks, botanical gardens, or even creating a museum of your dreams. Creativity is key here. Deadline of artwork submissions is February 11, 2022. Check out www.mzv.cz for more information. Stay tuned to Eagle News for more from the nation's capital. Arlene Ocampo, Embassy Files, Eagle News.
Thanks, Arlene. In Los Angeles, in its 27th year, the city's art show highlights themes about environmentalism, movement, and conversation. Bureau Chief Eva Basayahe reports for Color My World.
The 27th Annual LA Art Show once again creates a global gallery of modern, contemporary, digital, and interactive art. Every piece has a story, and every artist, a message.
The other cascade is a collective meeting to talk about the problem of pollution of one of the biggest rivers in Latin America, whose name is Rio Santiago, and is very near from my city, Guadalajara. And people there are suffering from the contamination and pollution of this river since many years ago. Instead of water, we have a toxic foam that kills. Rivers and water must give life, but instead now it's kill people. So that's it's very tragic. The knitting is a communitary knitting, a social knitting. We knit with many people. 400 people knit in this work. Help us. These people are from the villages besides the cell down near the river, and they are affected. They are suffering of cancer and different illness. Many people die. And also we knit with people from the cities, the city of Guadalajara, because the problem starts in the city. So this is many people knitting to make visible this terrible problem of pollution, and also to make links, to talk, create a space of dialogue and to reflection.
This one, it's from a project about gentrification in Brooklyn that I've been dealing in the last 12 years. It's based on an image of Williamsburg Plaza from 1906, and then I came back to the same exact location to document all the surrounding block that grew up from this point. So this image condenses 100 years of gentrification. This is another piece from the gentrification project. It shows Brooklyn Bridge Park at the beginning when they start to construct it at 2004. Then 10 years later when it got finished. So it's a new way and study, a vertical study of gentrification, where there is a lot of density it's a force that brings gentrification up. So that's why I'm celebrating these panoramas in a vertical way. This particular image is very hard because it has a lot of images and footage from 9/11, because I wanted to show the wound and the healing process. So it's a very compelling composition that calls you in, and from far we can appreciate the abstraction qualities, but when you're getting in and see the concrete details, it stops from functioning as an abstract. That's why I title it Concrete Abstract, because this image has this duality inside them that function in both ways.
Jetson Studios is a stained glass and art glass studio. We've been around since 1897 here in Los Angeles. It is a family-owned business. It's in its 5th generation. And so what we are representing here today is artist collaborations done in glasswork. A lot of the pieces that you see here today, they're all different artists, and each of the artists have their own, concept and design. And so a lot of the work is, they have a story behind it, and so if you read further, with the description, you'll learn about what each piece is about. And we are there to help translate the artist's work to the best of our, technical specialty, and also guided by them to make sure that we are able to achieve their vision. What we have here, we have a model of what we call the Pagoda Pavilion. The Pagoda Pavilion will be an actual architectural structure where you can experience and immerse yourself into it. It'll be about 14 feet high, 18 feet wide. You'll be able to walk into it, and it will be hopefully set on an exterior space. So what you see here is actually 5 of the 44 panels that we've already fabricated. So once we're done with the show, we go back into the studio and we'll continue to fabricate the rest of the pieces. So this is all designed by James Jean.
For my 3 series, I have the first one I did was movement, and that's behind us here. And then there's the transfers you can see over here, and it's one shot from my limited love series. And movement series is reason that I call movement is because I multiple exposure around 25 times, but I move in between. So I paint with my camera, you can say. When I started shooting this as an art, it was 15 years ago, and it was a little to break away from the very sharp photography where you could see everything, and there was nothing to discover. Everything was, you saw straight away. And I think, for me, I needed to have something that was a little deeper. And actually, if you start looking closer to the images, you find details that you don't see in the beginning. An old technique from the 80s when Polaroid was big, in the 80s we shot a lot of Polaroid before we shot film at that time. And the technique is called transfer. I shoot on a professional Polaroid with a negative, so I transfer the negative to watercolor paper instead of transfer to the Polaroid paper. And the watercolor paper's structure and the surface is not that good, so it cracks in that process. And then again, I find the distortion. I like it's not perfect. In this fair, there's not that much photography. I often sold to collectors who has only been buying paintings before, because they find me as a link between the painting and photography. Because, as I said earlier, I feel I paint with my camera.
The word duality was often attached to and representative of the work on display. Borrowing from this idea, we wanted to know what impact art could have on people, as well as what effect people could have on artists.
Art is very subjective, so some people love it and some people don't. And even now with all these NFTs trendy going on, some people just don't get it, and some people are just very into. So it's like for everything, you find a market for everything. But I think art is what you feel about a work, a piece, right away in the instant. So I think that is art for me. It's just the feeling, what you see and what you feel the instant that you see the piece.
I have this pleasure of meeting the people and having conversation with them to learn and to meet them. It's a very fulfilling stage, and I'm really thankful that it works like that, and it's really great.
The thoughts and feelings art evokes can differ from person to person. But if the desire to search for a deeper meaning to art awakens in people, then the artist has done their job. Eva Pasayaje, Eagle News, Los Angeles.
Thanks, Eva. It's another exciting episode for Behind the Counter. This week, Aika Ira is joined by Ethel Constantino for a very interesting chicken wing variety. Take a look.
Hey, I'm Aika, and welcome back to Behind the Counter, where we see easy and tasty meals be brought to life. Looking for ways to cut carbs and sugar? Well, here's a dish that can be your keto, a healthy lifestyle. Today, we'll be joined by EBC correspondent Ethel Constantino from Raleigh, North Carolina, to show us how to make keto chicken wings with creamy garlic sauce.
Chicken wings is one of my all-time favorites, but if you're doing keto, the regular flour breading is a no-no. So this simple recipe of keto fried chicken wings with creamy garlic cheese sauce will totally be an amazing alternative. These are the ingredients that you'll need: 10 pieces of chicken wings, 2 cups frying oil, 4 pieces of eggs, 1 cup pork panko, 1 cup almond flour, 1/4 cup garlic powder, 1 cup of all-purpose cream, 1/2 cup mozzarella cheese, salt, pepper, and fried garlic tidbits as garnish. Start by slicing and trimming your wings. Wash them thoroughly, then set aside. In a bowl, prepare your keto breading by mixing your pork panko, almond flour, half of the garlic powder, a dash of salt and pepper, then set aside. In a separate bowl, beat your eggs, then set aside. Dip your chicken wings into the egg, then dredge into the breading mix.
Make sure that every piece is well coated. Heat up oil in a pan. Fry each piece in hot oil until golden brown and crispy. Then set aside. To make the creamy cheese sauce, mix all-purpose cream, cheese, garlic powder, salt, and pepper in a saucepan. Simmer until thick and reduced. Assemble the chicken wings in a serving plate, then pour the sauce over them. Garnish with fried garlic. Enjoy! I hope you enjoyed this recipe. Ethel Constantino, Behind the Counter, Eagle News.
Check back here for full recipes, and if there's a dish that you'd like to see, let us know in the comments below. Catch us on eaglenewslive.com, on our Eagle News YouTube channel, and our Facebook page. Check back next week when we go Behind the Counter.
Keto dieting is very restrictive. It's best to always consult with your doctor before starting. Thank you, Aika and Ethel. Happy birthday to the lovely Annalyn Narciso of Northern Virginia. Happy viewing to Dulce Medina of Baltimore and to Eva Talampas of Irvine. Shout out to my friends who celebrated my birthday this past week. My love, my sister Ronette, Lisa, Cynthia, Daisy, Lay, Raylene, and of course, Lori. Thank you all for watching. Follow us on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter at Eagle News Live. I am Rose Papa Angeles. Happy weekend, everyone!